I have one here that says, romance is making babies, love is paying their tuition. So then, here's the three I'm going to tell you this. If you want to enhance your marriage, here's three things that you should know. One is, you should know you are a really selfish person. Okay? And you should admit it, just admit it right up front, that you are more selfish than you can possibly. So I remember one time we had it wasn't a dinner, it was a meeting, and passed out cards, any question you want to have about sex. I'm going through them. One question I read it, I said, the question was, can anything bad happen to you if you have sex in a lake? I'm not quite sure what they had in mind. You know, and I said, yeah, you can drown. You can drown. You know, that's not the way women use telephone. Matter of fact, the research has shown that women, I know you're going to be shocked by this, but women are 95% more probable going to use a telephone conversation to call someone when they don't really have anything to say. When there's no decision to be made or information necessarily to be transferred, but just to talk. Because here's what women, this is what Deborah Tan, I'm not making this up, Deborah Tan said this. And so he says to them, be fruitful and multiply, then fill the earth, and then it says, and subdue it, and rule over the fish and sea, the birds of the air, and over every creature that moves along the ground. That is what we call, you know, this particular passage is what's called the cultural mandate. And I mentioned that I grew up in the city of Pittsburgh. I grew up in Wilkinsburg. It's in the city of Pittsburgh. Okay? And nobody had a garden in our community. If you'd tried to have a garden, people would have peed on it and stuff. And so, we didn't even try to have it. I knew absolutely nothing about gardening. You know, so I said today, like, I see the guys in the cafeteria. They're sitting in the cafeteria having lunch. All of a sudden, they see a woman walking across. You know, guy stops chewing. You know, you got the spoon halfway up to his mouth. You'll be like, watch that woman walk all the way across the dining hall. You know, and I'll say to him, you know what he's thinking? I'll tell you what he's thinking. Here's what he's thinking. He sees that woman, and he says, I see a creature of God that God has filled with all sorts of unbelievable potential. I want to discover what are the laws of God for how to properly open up a relationship with another person. So that by obeying those laws of God, I can serve that other person, and I can help her to become everything that she was meant to be. When that happened, God would be glorified, and she would be blessed, and so would I. And I say, no, that is not what he is thinking. Here's what he's thinking. One more time, because this is heavy. All right? If you try to find intimacy with another person before achieving a sense of identity on your own, all your relationships become an attempt to complete yourself. In other words, in a certain sense, all your relationships are to some degree doomed to be successful because they're not really about the other person. They're not really about the relationship. They're really simply only about you. Every once in a while, I listen to Delilah on the radio. All right? Radio. All right? I'm in the car a lot, and sometimes that's the only channel you can get. Those of you who don't know who Delilah is, Delilah's that woman who, you know, gives advice and plays sappy love songs, you know, at night on the radio. She's got a great voice, and she seems very nice. She's never had a successful relationship in her life, but she gives a lot of relational advice. Okay? And I remember one night I was listening. The woman called in very excited. Delilah, I want you to pick a song for me and my boyfriend, you know, and so forth. He's the greatest thing that's come into my life. I think he's the one. I think he's the one. And she said, Delilah, tell me more, tell me more. And she's like, oh, tell me more. Women are like that. So, the thing that is the most rock solid that you can find to identify yourself. And that is to learn to rely on God. I was at a memorial service the other day, a guy, friend's child had died. The guy started the service, you know, with this statement. He said, started praying, he said, you're the God who made us, who knows us, and who loves us.